All right, everybody. Thanks very much for coming on up in here. Welcome. So keep coming in. Welcome to my talk. This is the premiere of App Security Does Not Need to Be Fun. Ignoring OWASP to have a terrible time. As I explained to Tommy here, I thought up the title first, and I wrote this talk in the last 2 weeks when I got accepted to this conference. If you want to get these slides, that's what the tiny URL is at the bottom. Dwayne-SecureWV. I love tiny URL for that. Makes it easy. So I'm Dwayne. I live in Chicago. Flew down for this. I've been a developer advocate since about 2016. And you can find me on Twitter and MC Dwayne. Hit me up about anything related to tech, what I'm talking about today. Also rock and roll. I love rock and roll. Improv shows. I do improv in Chicago. Karaoke, anything. Hit me up. I'm always happy to talk to you. So quick plug, I work for a company called GetGuardian. I'll start out just saying, I'll mention them later as well because we're a gold sponsor of OWASP. So you'll see that come up again later. But GetGuardian is a company that focuses on secret leakage detection and mitigation. If you're hard coding your secrets or someone's hard coding secrets somewhere in your org and they're pushing that somewhere, you should probably be aware of that. And that's what we help people do. Very recently, we've introduced internet infrastructure as code scanning for most common vulnerabilities. And we have awesome open source tools around that. So check it out. I also have stickers for these for this company. If you want stickers, come up and get them afterward. And screen covers. So if you want a webcam cover, I got a few of them left. All right. So who here is a security professional? Who here considers themselves a developer? Awesome. That's who I wrote the talk for. Who here is actually a member of OWASP already? What's that? Well, that was my next question. But first was member. Who's a member of OWASP? All right. No hands went up for those of you watching at home. And who uses the OWASP tools in some capacity? A few hands went up. So what does good security actually look like? I think it looks like this. Pager not going off. You're very confident that nothing's bad's going to happen by the morning unless something does, but you're confident that you can sleep through the night. And going away on a camping trip, that was the keynote this morning, said they went camping right before came to this event. You got time to do that. You got time to go to concerts and not worry like I'm going to have to leave in the middle before the headliner actually comes on because we're going to have an incident. But it really comes down, I think, to this, that you have that personal time to spend with the people you love. That's what good security looks like, in my opinion, in my worldview. I come from the DevOps space in Drupal and WordPress. Everything we do has a human cost to it, not just a financial cost, not just a technical cost, but it comes down to a human cost. And that's the underlying message. I'm not going to talk about that a whole lot, but that's the underlying message of the rest of this talk. Of like how to not have a terrible time. Because what does bad security look like? Well, unfortunately, I don't have like 3 pictures that paint that just as well as those first few did, because all unhappy families are a little bit different. But let's talk about a few unhappy families out there. Who heard about this? Toyota? I'm proud to say I got top of Hacker News for about 8 hours because I wrote a piece on this. They had a subcontractor push part of their T-Connect repo to a public repo, and it contained a key to a data server that had 296,019 customers' data in it. Not a good day. I did not sleep through the night on that one. Oh yeah, and it was exposed for 5 years before they figured it out. They have no idea who has this. Cash App. Who's heard of this one? This was a fun one. Disgruntled employee. They forgot to turn, well, they didn't forget. They didn't have policy to turn off their rights. Came back later, stole all the data for all their users. Uber. This one probably everybody's heard of. Yes. Lapsus. A teenager broke this to the New York Times. Said, hey, I pwned Uber. And that's how it broke. He said, look at all this data I have. Look at all these systems I came into. I got in through everything because they hard-coded into PowerShell scripts. All the credentials I needed. Didn't do anything with it other than embarrass them that we know of. We don't know what Lapsus actually did with it. Unlike Samsung, where Lapsus dumped it all. said, here's 160 gigs of Samsung's data, including the source code for Galaxies, and over 6,000 secrets to get into the rest of their systems. After them, not attributed to Lapsus, they realized, hey, someone's stolen all of our customer data. I think it's directly related to this, but they've never confirmed that it is. They're not even saying what exactly they stole. They just say something got stolen. But maybe one of the biggest unhappy families out there is Apache users, unfortunately, thanks to Log4Shell. I don't think we need to say a lot about that, but that affected so much of the internet. Everybody involved in that then had to scramble and have some sleepless nights and couldn't go camping and couldn't go to concerts because they had to fix this. They had to figure out how to mitigate the problems from that. Threats are only increasing out there, day to day. That's one thing we've heard repeatedly here at SecureWV. And security teams are outnumbered, but maybe not in the way you're thinking. I don't think there are more hackers than there are any more black hat hackers than there are people on red teams and blue teams, and people trying to do good. Where security people are outnumbered is inside their own organizations. Security at conference, Alex Rice recently said, in the best organizations, it's 100 to 1 of developers to security people. So what do? Let's just shift left, make everybody on the security team. Then this fixes that problem, doesn't it? That'd be great. That's what shifting left can mean. I think shifting left is a bad term personally, because I see it so poorly abused. Smearing left or spreading left. Spreading left is the word that I heard. That I kind of like that one because it spread the knowledge around, and that's what it was supposed to do. Because if we keep sliding everything left, like everything left, eventually the developers are the only people doing anything, and they already have a lot to do. They got deliverables, they're fighting bugs, they have to figure out DevOps now. They're fighting Kubernetes day in, day out. That's a whole industry. If you ask most DevOps people what they do, like Kubernetes is somewhere in their description of what they do day to day. Nobody understands it. Not many people that write it, I think. There's only so much time. Unfortunately, as well, from the business perspective, a lot of business people I've talked to in my life kind of have this view of security. It's like, yeah, we got to fix the last thing that broke. Oh, wait a minute, we just slowed everything down. We got to speed back up again. Wait a minute, that caused an incident. And we're in this endless loop. But you can just throw a tool at it. If you can figure out which tool to throw at it. Again, this is developers who are kind of on their own. Like, hey, you were going to worry about security now. Build that into your deliverables. We're done. No. If as somebody that used to be ex-sales, I can tell you that my tool will always be the thing that solves most of your problems. But in reality, there's so many tools and so many salespeople yelling that you don't know what to do. So I think this is what a lot of people I've talked to, a lot of people in the last few weeks, last few months of my life I've talked to, feel like this. They feel like the Red Queen. You got to run as fast as you can just to stay where you are. To get ahead, you got to run at least twice that fast. If you've not ever read Through the Looking Glass and what Alice found there, it's the second book in the Alice series. Probably you're familiar with the first one, Alice in Wonderland. Those are two of my favorite books ever written. It's a bunch of wonderful nonsense, full of math. So right now, if you're a developer and you're just I've reminded you, like, yes, this is the world I live in, you might be thinking, yeah, I wish there was just a benevolent group of superheroes that could just help me with this stuff. Turns out there is. It's called OWASP. It's the largest nonprofit focused on security in the world. Stands for Open Web Application Security Project. Mission is very simple. No more insecure software. In a perfect world, that's what they would actually accomplish. This is actually their full mission statement. It's kind of long. I'll let you read it. But really, it boils down to just a few things that they do. And it's these things. They got projects, they focus on communities, events, education and training, publication and resources. Projects is the heart of everything. This is the main thing I think OWASP is known for. They make all of these awesome projects that do a bunch of things. We'll break down a little bit more in the next slides, but every one of them has a repo attached. Volunteers and experts are contributing their own time and resources to make these happen. There are 242 at current count, but that number keeps going up. and there are 149 in usable states. When I say usable states, they're in one of these 4 categories. Flagship, which is, well, the best, biggest, most supported, best documented. Production is a new category as of October. Nothing's in it yet because it's a brand new category and there's a process to get into it. That means it's production ready and you should feel confident running it in production. Of course, to say that with confidence, you got to go through a process and no one's done it yet. It's too new. Lab projects, they're not flagship projects, but they're still pretty good. Incubator projects are on their way to lab. Flagships, though, are designation to give projects that have demonstrated strategic value. Labs are on their way there. Oh yeah, those numbers, that's why I made these slides. 18 flagships right now. 34 lab projects and 97 incubators. Everything else is on its way there. It needs documentation. You're looking to get involved in open source? Here are over 100 projects that would love your help. And as we get further down in that stack, flagships are very general, very big, very broad. Labs, a little more specific, a little more like OWASP podcast project, for instance. They make a podcast. That's what they do. The incubators are very specific, and they start getting into the weeds of what you want to get done with security. And that's a lot. So they mapped it out. They said, hey, how do you know which one do you need to use when? So they built a map for you. It's literally a map of the software development lifecycle and says, all right, if you're in the requirements phase, we got a tool for that. If you're in the culture, building and process maturing, we got stuff for that. And there's some overlap there. And they're all arranged around this idea of CRE, that's fairly recent, only about a year and a half old, I think. CRE, common requirement enumeration. Because there are so many standards out there. There are so many numbers to know. They said, what if we just made a meta layer that combined all the numbers and linked everything together in a logical way? And that's what they did. It's OpenCRE, opencre.org. You can jump there on your computer right now, look up any security topic you want, and it's fully linked. This is what NIST is. These are CVEs for it. These are everything you need to know about it. Community. It is people. That's why we're here in the first place. If it was just us doing security out there in the dark by ourselves, we wouldn't have awesome events like this. That's why I love Drupal. That's why I love WordPress, is the communities. The code, it's PHP. But the people are amazing, and you have the best times. Chapters all over the world. I've been to 2 OWASP meetups in the last week because they were online and they could do it. That's how I found out about the Git vulnerability. There's 2 CVEs open for Git right now. If you have not updated to the latest, do it immediately and you'll be safe. But that's literally news from last week. GitHub has a really good article on it. But Git has a core vulnerability. Anyway, sidetrack. Many events all over the world. In fact, I mentioned it earlier, GitGuardian actually hosts the in-person one in Paris. GitGuardian is based in Paris. So that's what a meetup looks like. We all know what meetups look like. But you can get together with your friends, talk, shop. You want to go to a larger event, something like SecureWV, they have those too. I'm really bummed I can't go to the one in November in San Francisco, the AppSec days, because of other prior engagements, but they have big events. You all know what events are, so don't harp on that. Education and training. This is one of my favorite things about OWASP. Who here, oh, none of you are all members. If you're a member of OWASP, you have complete access to Secure Flag. It's a training platform that's always up to date with the latest standards because it's written by the teams at OWASP who are responsible for this stuff. In any area you want. Free unlimited training, you can go for search with it. I'm not here to sell you on OWASP, but this blew my mind when I first started digging through it. You get a free OWASP.org email account, but that gets you Secure Flag for as much training as you want. Truthfully, I've not had enough time since I started writing this talk to start going through this stuff, but there's a lot there. There's also a ton of trainings based on OWASP. I just Googled, literally Googled, it's in the speaker notes, the Google search, OWASP trainings, or OWASP education and training. And this is one of the articles that came up. There are hundreds of pages of results. They also make a lot of publications. A lot of white papers you'll read will cite OWASP or will come from OWASP. And they have a book. if you want to spend money on a book. A lot of that crosses over with plot projects. So, okay, I just told you a lot of information about an organization that no one's a member of, and only a few people have started touching the tools of. So how do you use this stuff? Well, we'll break it down into these 4 takeaways. If you walk away with nothing else from this talk, these are the 4 things you should remember about OWASP. Top 10. They make a top 10 list every single year that is the top 10 type of attacks. That's actually what it says. It's updated yearly. But it's kind of the 80-20 rule. If you are guarding against the most active attacks out there that the script kiddies are throwing at anything they can find an IP for, this is this year. This is 2021. They haven't come out with 2022 yet because, well, we're still in 2022. But it's based on research, and then 2 of them are from community surveys. Like, what do you think are the biggest issues? So if you're gonna think, hey, is my app secure as a developer? This is your starting point. Hey, have I actually fixed access control? Do I guarded against injections? If you can go down this list, because all of these, it's not just a list, all of these have in-depth articles about what they are, and very importantly, how to prevent. So if you're starting, your CISO says, hey, now you dev, you are responsible for security for your own apps. You're not alone. You have a whole world that's telling you how to prevent it. Cheat sheets. That same CISO comes in and says, what do you know about X? If you got time to Google and read, then you got time to jump over to the cheat sheets and quickly find what you're looking for. The cheat sheets is an awesome series that will go in depth about any, I think it's 100 and some topics. I don't actually know the number off the top of my head. But there's a bunch of cheat sheets. It's cheatsheets.owasp.org that break down any general topic. So next time someone, a director level or somebody says, hey, what do you know about Kubernetes security? Do 2 minutes of reading, and you will have a quick brain dump of what the experts think about this, including architecture, general terms, definitions, and like how to prevent the worst attacks based on the top 10 again. OWASP goats, not the greatest of all time. Well, maybe they are. Maybe they are. They're specifically designed insecure applications. You want to see an example of how not to write an app? There you go. WebGoat is the oldest. Node.js Goat's pretty good. Wrong Secrets is awesome. You want to see how not to do password management? They wrote a whole app for that. You can go and tear apart and see this is how not to do it. PyGoat, all the other incubator ones are still need help. If you want a WebGoat PHP, they need help. But the greatest of all isn't a goat. The greatest of all is Juice Shop. Who's ever run Juice Shop? Awesome. A few hands went up. Juice Shop is an awesome application with a bunch of really fun cookies in it. Cookies being the fact that you click on it and it takes you to a YouTube video. You basically Rickrolls you without Rickrolling you. Rickrolling without Rick. But it's very in-depth. You could technically run this in production. You shouldn't, but you could. It's that well made. And it's really well documented. There's tons of articles that will go into details about how to use it effectively and why you can use it effectively and how to tear it apart. And there's tons of documentation on this thing. So maybe it is the greatest of all time for insecure apps that you shouldn't run in production. And Zap. These are like the top 4 if you take away. If you take away nothing else, download Zap and use this. You will be horrified and shocked. Maybe not in that order. So Z-Attacks Proxy. They actually have a conference about this these days. Stackhawk throws it. It's called ZapCon. And there's a whole conference about Zap. Like, it's a growing community into itself outside of, the larger OWASP communities. It's awesome. So Zap is an attack tool. And this is what it looks like. Not that impressive. But you throw the URL you want to attack. Make sure it's something you actually have permission to attack and they're expecting it, so that we can be all on the ethical good side of things. A really good thing to test this with is Juice Shop. And it will show you an extreme example of what it can do. Because you throw it and it takes a while to run. It's literally attacking the app as hard as it can. And it throws up alerts. So I don't know the exact number on that if you did the math. But this is what it thinks is wrong with Juice Shop. So if you're like, well, how do I even start with making my app secure? I read all these things. I got these checklists. I got these spreadsheets. I've got these white papers. Oh, wait a minute. I can run Zap, actually run down the list of alerts and start tackling it from there. Which ones should I attack first? Oh, let's go cross-reference this with the top 10, which is the most likely scenario for me. Will it protect you in every situation? No, it's a tool. Like any other tool, it's got limitations. It's got its drawbacks. One of the big problems with it is false positives. They admit that. They're working on that. Again, it's open source. If you want to help with that, they'd love some help. But it's a starting point. I actually don't know how long I've been talking. 22 minutes. Wow, this is faster than I thought it was. So in conclusion, you don't have to be alone out there. You don't have to just wish that someone would help you, because there's a whole community of people to help you. It's called OWASP. Do you have to join them to leverage them? Absolutely not. Can you go use all of their tools right now for free? Yes, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, security should look like this, not panic and tickets and people yelling at you and going looking for another job because you got tired of it. Start with top 10. Just reading that is super illuminating about security in general. You got a specific question about a specific area, they made a cheat sheet for you already, guarantee it. If they didn't, it's open source. You could probably contribute one if it's something you know about. Play with the goats. They'll show you what not to do. And finally, Zap. Download it. You'll be horrified. I'm Dwayne. I live in Chicago. Talk went a little bit faster than I expected because I had 70 slides, but I got through them somehow. So with that, I'll open up for any questions y'all got. I was really hoping to have an OWASP member in here that could tell me about, hey, you forgot to talk about that particular part of it that I really like. But since y'all are using tools, if there's, well, first, if there's any questions, happy to try to answer those. And then I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat as you on that one. All I know is what in the public conversation on it, and it is that exact sentiment. That's what they said at ZapCon this year. ZapCon is completely available online, so you can watch it all for free. That's what the lead devs were saying. Is like, there's a queue. We're working on stuff as fast as we can. The false positive they see is the bigger problem. And I forget that. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But that's the biggest issue, people, because Zap kind of is intended to, like, you run locally to test these things, not in production, though it is a flagship and you should be able to do that. That, I think, this is me speculating, is part of how they came up with the production ready category, because Zap will not qualify for that because of that, because you can't run an enterprise. I don't think that's like the motivators, like, let's make Zap fix this by not letting them into a category, but that category should preclude them if it's doing what they say it's going to, which is let you run it at scale. Mm-hmm. Well, my next question, which is not a great question, is like, do you know if there's an open PR that someone's trying to fix this yet that just needs upvotes? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that PRs are open is like the worst response in the world. make sure I'm going to the right one. Yeah, proxy. PRs. I mean, 700 issues open, so there's quite the queue. Let's see the log. There's no PRs currently open. Yeah, it's still open. Or the issue's still open. So it's been open for a while too, 2018. So everybody get online, upvote this immediately. We'll get this fixed. That's the power of this. I'm serious. Like I just had a ticket close, finally get fixed after like 6 months for a extension on a VS Code extension. But it took 6 months. During that time, they gained like 6 million users, and it's a UI problems. Like there's an extra 6 million people that ran into something that it could have fixed earlier. But what finally got it is enough people upvoted it. They're like, hey, we'll fix it. Yeah, okay. Enough people have complained. Now it's the loudest, the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, unfortunately. But it's also just us. So that's the plus and the minus of any open source community is it's us doing it. Like we're the ones building it. There's no finger you can really point that doesn't also eventually point back to us as individuals saying, well, why don't I fix this? But at the same time, you got a family, you got other responsibilities. Like it's a balancing act, but that's all open source, good and bad. Now I'm just rambling. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Over there. The short answer is no. The only thing I know about Stackhawk that I am very comfortable saying is that they are the main sponsor behind ZapCon. Beyond that, I don't have a firm opinion. Did anybody have an opinion? Well, this is open forum. Anybody use Stackhawk in here? There you go. Couldn't tell you. I've talked to their sales reps at a booth once, but that's a sales rep at a booth, so I don't know. Any other thoughts, questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming out, and check out OWASP.
This talk was a part of our 2022 Secure West Virginia Lucky 13 conference. If you would like more information about this talk or our speaker, check the description below. And if you enjoyed the content, consider liking and sharing this video. For more information on Secure West Virginia, or you want to stay updated with the latest upcoming events, follow us on Twitter at SecureWVCon or visit our website, securewv.org. We would also like to thank our 2022 sponsors for being a huge part of Lucky 13's success.